Hello, everybody. So today's case is one that I know is fairly popular, but I've never really looked into it or really watched much about it. But I have seen it a ton of times, and so I'm going to finally dive into it today. And it is the case of Alexis Patterson. This case does involve a child. In case cases about children trigger you, I would skip this one. But that is who we're going to be talking about today. She was a little 7-year-old girl, and it's just a really sad case. So let's go ahead and get into this. All the links I used for research will be down below, like always, and there will also be a link to a case suggestions form if you have any cases that you'd like me to talk about in particular. And let's go ahead and get into this. So Alexis was 7 years old, and she was known as being a bubbly first grader who loved the color pink and roller skating. She was also known for having a spunky spirit, being all smiles, and she had perfect attendance at High Mount Boulevard School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she loved to show off her pink Barbie backpack. Friends and family affectionately called her Lexi or Pie. Her stepdad, Laurent, I'm sorry if I pronounced his last name wrong, Bourgeois, he did sell drugs, and in the 3 years leading up to her disappearance, he repeatedly robbed and had been robbed by armed drug dealers. In one incident, a man held Alexis and her mom, Ayanna, at gunpoint. A year and a half before she disappeared, the principal of her school sent home a letter to her parents warning them about the attempted abduction of a little boy who was walking to school. It did not include the description of the vehicle. On the day she disappeared, her stepbrother, who was 5 at the time, said Alexis got a whooping that morning, but said it wasn't violent or life-threatening. He said Ayanna hit Alexis on the arm because she was pretending she didn't know how to put her socks on. He said this made Alexis cry, and Laurent walked Alexis to the corner that morning. She almost always walked alone to school, which was less than 2 blocks from her home. A crossing guard for the school, who was in 5th grade at the time, couldn't remember specifically whether Laurent walked her to the corner the morning of May 3rd, 2002, when she disappeared. The crossing guard did say that Laurent returned to the intersection in tears the next morning. A man who supplied Laurent with drugs to sell came to Alexis's family's home the morning she went missing. He said he had been in there early in the morning, only once before, and I'm including this just because it's kind of weird about what happened to her. So that's why I'm including all like the drug stuff. Is you'll get an idea for it, but there's a reason why. Also, I want to say really quickly the account that her brother said about her crying because she was pretending she didn't know her socks on, it is different than the account of someone else saying why she was crying that morning. Not saying that these two things can't be the reason simultaneously that she was upset. I'm just saying that I saw one more often than the other. Her brother's account of what happened, I've only seen in one article, so that's why I'm saying that. So I guess take it with a grain of salt. So like I said, another article says that Alexis and Ayanna had an argument that morning because Alexis didn't finish her homework on time, so Ayanna didn't let her take cupcakes as a snack that day. She was last seen at 8:20 a.m. on May 3rd, 2002, when Laurent walked her to the crosswalk and he watched her go towards the playground. Feeling that she was safe, he left to go back home. Alexis never attended classes that day, although students reported seeing her crying on the playground before and after school. She was never heard from again. So regardless of what was making her cry, whether it was the cupcake thing or the sock thing or both, she was seen crying at the playground, so there was an argument that morning. By 4 p.m. that afternoon, she hadn't returned home from school. Ayanna and Laurent weren't told that she had been absent until after school had been dismissed. They initially believed that she refused to go to class because of the argument with Ayanna. When she didn't come home, her parents waited an hour before calling police, and by 6 p.m. a search for Alexis was underway. Police agreed with the scenario and said that something may have caused her disappearance after she was seen in the playground. So they agree, like, she just didn't go to class. She was seen on the playground crying, and then something happened, basically. Important to note, she does not have a history of being a runaway, and she had a perfect attendance record prior to this. The surrounding areas were searched immediately after she was reported missing. Investigators canvassed nearby Washington Park while divers searched its lagoon. Police focused on areas near, I am so sorry if I pronounce this word wrong, Meineke Avenue, Vine Street, Keith Street, and 60th Street in the northwest section of the city. No evidence was found at any of these locations. Police announced that she disappeared under suspicious circumstances and reclassified her case from missing child to a criminal investigation by May 14th. Some of her classmates told police that they had seen a red truck parked near the school for most of the week before her disappearance. The truck never dropped anyone off or picked anyone up, and it disappeared after Alexis vanished, never seen again. It has not been identified, and it is unknown if it's connected to her case. And I want to say very quickly, if you remember when the school initially sent home, papers saying that there was an attempted abduction of a boy, they said something about a vehicle, but they didn't describe the vehicle. In my head, I immediately thought that maybe it was the same person. They failed to kidnap that boy, so maybe they tried it with Alexis and succeeded this time. Because it's definitely weird that it was seen for a week before she went missing, never picked anyone up, never dropped anyone off. Why would you be at a school if you don't have a child? That's super weird. And then it just disappears after she vanishes. It kind of feels like maybe it could have been the same person coming back, and they finally succeeded in what they wanted. And maybe it could have been someone completely different. But I definitely think this red truck is significant and probably has something to do with her vanishing. It just makes a lot of sense to me personally. So, Ayana agreed to take a polygraph test right away, but Laurent consulted an attorney first, but later agreed. It was reported that Laurent failed, but Laurent later said that the machine detected deception at only one question. And the question that showed deception was, do you know where Alexis is right now? He said he hadn't lied when he answered any of the questions, including that one. He always mentioned that he has no idea of what happened to her. And I do want to say really quickly that polygraph tests are not like infallible. If you're nervous or anything like that, you can fail a polygraph test. I know that people like to say, no, that's not how it works. If you're lying, that's the only way you can fail. It's been proven time and time again. That's not the case. Plenty of people that are innocent will fail tests just by being super nervous. And while it is definitely weird that he only failed one question, it doesn't necessarily mean that he is guilty. Just like he's not guilty because he didn't immediately agree to take one. Because, like I said, just because you are innocent doesn't mean you have to take one, because they have failed a lot of innocent people before. Honestly, I don't know if I would take one, if I'm being completely honest. No matter the crime, even if I was completely innocent, I don't know if I would take one, because they're easily to manipulate, and I would be nervous to take one. I would probably eventually agree just so it didn't look weird, but I would probably also hesitate. So yeah, polygraphs definitely aren't infallible. They have their own issues. Like I said, definitely weird that he failed that one question. Doesn't necessarily mean he did something. So that's just my thoughts on that. And maybe he, if we want to say that he is guilty, maybe it's related to drugs. Maybe he doesn't know where she is. Maybe the person in the red truck is related to all of like the robberies or the drug issues he's had. I don't know what it could necessarily be about, but maybe he does have an idea of where she could be. maybe it could be connected to that, but that's really the only thing I could think of him knowing, unless he did something to her. But she was seen on the playground crying. It's kind of weird that he would drop her off and then go back. But let's go ahead and move on. There was renewed hope in the case when an Ohio woman who strongly resembled Alexis came to light. Questions about her arose when the woman's ex-fiancé became increasingly curious about her murky past. The woman claimed to have no memory of her childhood before age 10. She has no photos or school mementos of her childhood. This made her ex-fiancé search for clues and came upon a computer-aged photograph of Alexis and became convinced that the woman and Alexis are the same. The couple compiled a set of a dozen photos and sent that to the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. Within days, they also sent them to the Journal-Sentinel, hoping for action. The Journal-Sentinel sent the photos to the cold case unit. The woman has two features aforementioned in the description of Alexis: a linear scar beneath her right eye and an unusual bump on her left pinky finger. There is also a third characteristic not released to the general public that she does have. The Journal-Sentinel contacted Ayanna about it, who confirmed Alexis had that characteristic. However, the results of a DNA genetic test excluded the possibility that the woman was Alexis. And that is what I have for you on the case of Alexis Patterson. I know that felt like a really abrupt ending, but there's just no answer about where Alexis is. We don't know if she's dead. We don't know if she's alive. Obviously something happened to her. Someone picked her up. We don't know who. We don't know why. We don't know where she is. We don't know any of that. So I know this felt really abrupt. But I remember about this woman, I don't think she necessarily thought she was Alexis. In fact, if I remember correctly, she thought it was dumb. She really did not believe that she is Alexis. Her ex-fiance was the one that was really pushing it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Alexis' mother was also pretty convinced that this could be Alexis. But unfortunately, we got the answer that it was not, which is really strange because she had 3 of 3 characteristics, very specific and peculiar characteristics that Alexis has. So that's super weird. I was really thinking like, okay, maybe she is, and then it was like, nope, she's not. I was like, really? But it was only 3 things. Doesn't mean anything. Hopefully Alexis is still out there though. Anybody that has any information about this case, you are urged to contact the Milwaukee Police Department at 414-935-7401 or 414-935-7302, or the Milwaukee County Police Department at 414-278-4788. So what do we think happened to Alexis? I will be completely honest. At first, I was definitely thinking LaRon was a little weird. Well, not a little weird. I thought the thing with the polygraph test was a little weird, but it doesn't really make sense for him to have dropped her off at school, leave, go back, and do something with her. I really think it was whoever was in that red truck that did something. Could LaRon have been in that red truck? Maybe. Although that would have been really weird. I feel like somebody would have noticed that it was him. But my bet is whoever's in that red truck. And maybe it's connected to LaRon with like the drug thing or something. I really don't know. But I do think someone was watching her beforehand. And I think they made their move when she did not go to class one day. And that's really sad because she was such a beautiful, bright young girl that this didn't have to happen to. And what's also creepy about this and scary is that if it hadn't happened to her, it could have happened to another child. I feel in my soul that whoever took her in this was probably in this truck. I feel like it was probably the same person that tried to abduct that boy. They failed with the boy. If they had failed with Alexis, I think there is a solid chance that they would have tried again, and it could have been another child. And that is just so scary to think about how easy this was to get her. Like, it's absolutely terrifying. But let me know your thoughts down below, like always. Please, please, please be respectful. You never know if family is going to come across this, and if the family does come across this, I just want to say that I am so, so sorry about what happened to Alexis. I hope you guys get some actual answers one day, and Alexis is hopefully brought home. And again, I'm very sorry about Alexis. She was a lovely little girl, and she sounded so adorable. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Alexis's story, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, guys.